The height in meters of a certain projectile as a function of time, t, so t is time, in seconds, is given by h of t equals 20t minus 4.9 t squared. Okay, so there's our function. That's always important. Which is the closest to the domain of the function h of t in this situation? So we have to recall that domain is the x values. So that's what they're asking us about. And we have a function and a real life situation. So it might not be all real numbers that are included in the domain. So the first thing I would do is graph it. So go to y equals in your calculator, and we would put in 20x minus 4.9 x squared. And when you graph it, you're going to see an upside down parabola. You might not be able to see the whole thing. I had to go to my window and see a little bit higher, so I had to change my y max to about 30, and then I could see the whole parabola. It looked something like this. So for domain, we should be thinking about the x-axis and how does our parabola measure against it. Well, if this is something flying through the air, I know that our function isn't going to be valid down here because they really launch something at the beginning of time, and then over here it's going to land, and the function isn't really going to continue to model the data. It's not going to go through the earth, it's just going to hit the ground and land. So I want to trace my function on my calculator to find out what this point is, and when I do that, I find that x is a roughly 4.1-ish. And x is in seconds, so it takes about 4 seconds for that thing to come back down and hit the ground. So my domain is not all real numbers. B says it's all real numbers greater than or equal to 0. Well, that's not true because our function stops working once it lands, so that's not going to work. C says all real numbers greater than or equal to 0. Yeah, it does have to be greater than 0. And less than or equal to 4.082. That looks good. And then D says all real numbers greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 20.4. Now, I think this one's a trick. If you were thinking about the range, you would probably get tricked into answering D, but the correct answer is C.